Hey everybody, how we all doing? Need to get my computer charged or plugged in here.
Good.
Good.
Doing all right.
I'm glad to hear that, Logan. Let's see if I can get my... Not close enough yet. I gotta move my little table here so I can get my computer plugged in. I had to find myself a little spot in the basement. There we go. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. I hope your first morning of distance learning is going okay. I want to get started by asking you all to think about a question for me. So I'm going to ask the question, and you can think about how you'll respond while I tell you what my kind of response to this question is. And what I'd like to know is what you think some of the benefits of being in a distance model might be for you. So the reason I asked this is because I was working outside and a neighbor came over, knows I'm a teacher, was asking me about it. They've had students go through the school system. They don't have students in the school right now, but and they were asking what I thought about the distance learning versus the hybrid model and whether I thought it was good or bad. And I started off by saying that I didn't like the switching back and forth, and that I thought last year that when we were in distance that a lot of students had struggled because I thought we were giving them too much freedom, that we normally as a high school don't just say, hey, you guys go figure it out, and that was hard for some students, and that there were some students that we kind of that got left behind by that for a variety of reasons, right? Whether it was their own time management issues or things related to their family or just the anxiety and stress of it. And so I'd started off by focusing on the negatives, but then I thought for a minute, and I was like, but actually that I don't think our school system, the traditional school model before COVID, did a very good job of preparing students to actually take control of their own learning. I don't think we were well set up for that. We were very sort of controlling of your time and your plan and what you needed to do. And while I think that did help some students who needed that structure, I also don't think it set up a situation where people learned how to manage their time. And I think the result is a lot of people struggled in college or whatever they decided to do after high school because they didn't know how to manage their time to keep progressing their life in a meaningful way. So then I thought about the idea that really one of the best things to maybe come out of distance learning and this whole COVID thing overall for students is that I already can tell that you all are getting better at managing your time and taking care of your business of being a student in the way that best works for you, in a way that I didn't notice that students could do in the past. They could. There were some that were good at it. But almost everybody has figured out a way to manage their time and their schedule and their day. And I think that's a skill that's really beneficial. So while I still don't like distance learning and I'd rather be with all of you, I think there are potentially some benefits to this. So I'd like to hear what you think benefits of this distance learning model might be for you. I mean, it can reflect what I said, or it can be things that other things, right? It gives you more free time to work, or you get to hang out with your little brother more, whatever, right? Sleep in. But like, what are you looking forward to? Like, what could be a benefit of this for you? So I'm just going to go down and just ask people to hop on. I'd love it if you would please turn on your camera. And if you're uncomfortable, just point your camera. I mean, look, here you can see my ceiling isn't even that nice, right? We're actually trying to tear out our ceiling. But you can point the camera up at your ceiling and just wave and tell us what you think if you're not comfortable showing us your face, okay? But I'd like you to turn on your camera, tell us what you think a benefit is for you, and then you can turn off your camera, okay? So Austin, will you get us started?
I don't have to get up so early. I get more sleep.
Does your camera work, Austin?
Let me see.
Are you on your Chromebook or?
Yeah, I just tapped it. But it's not. Hello?
There we go.
Hi.
Hi, Austin.
Hi.
So you're looking forward to being able to sleep in a little bit?
Yeah.
Awesome. I am too. That is a benefit. Thank you. Grayson, how about you?
That I can get more work done quicker.
Yep. Perfect. Thanks, Grayson. I think a lot of students echo that idea that, there was a lot of time where you're just sitting at school, especially in the hybrid model, but even not in the hybrid model. Jack, how about you? Jack S.
I like being able to make my own schedule and not be told like what to do in class and when to do it. I can just do it on my own.
Yep. Perfect. Even though I'd say it looks like the school is planning a little bit more structure in the first part of our day, like up until 10:50 or whatever, I agree with you. Overall, I think it's still a lot more freedom and a lot less structure in the days, so which can be a benefit if people learn how to use that. Kangjia?
I'll get like a lot more time to complete things and I get more sleep too.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Logan, how about you? What do you got for us?
I get to stay at my cabin like I am right now.
Nice. Yeah. Right? For families that can go or be in other places, I mean, you're not tied to any one spot. Yeah. I mean, I know if my kids weren't going to had to go to class, I would be like, hey, let's head out. And, there's no reason you're not stuck in one spot. I think that's great. Maceo, how about you?
I get to like have more free time and stuff to just do whatever I want.
Perfect. Now that's a balance though, Maceo. I don't know about you, but that sometimes can be a double-edged sword. If you have too much free time, then you might tend to, not you, but a person might tend to like not keep their main focus on the main thing. But I agree. It's really nice to be able to like get your work done and then know that the rest of the time is free time. Nadia, how about you?
For me, I just get the comfort of staying at home.
Perfect. Yep. Yeah. It's just more relaxing at home. And also it's a stressful time to be out in the community. So yeah, I can echo that. Noah, how about you?
You get more sleep, which is nice, and there's like less wasted time that you might have in school. So like that.
Perfect. Yep. Pachi, how about you?
I get to stay home, and if I want to walk around, I can just walk around and have that kind of stuff.
That's great. Yep, totally. I'm with you, right? Like we're stuck in the building when we're at the building, and yeah, it's nice to be around everybody sometimes, but yeah, I agree. Riley, how about you?
I just get to spend more time with my cat.
There you go.
There you go.
I love the cat. All right. Tomorrow, how about you?
I just get more free time, sleep a little more inside the house, more relaxing and stuff like that.
Okay. Spencer, what are you looking forward to?
Getting done at 10:50, and then the rest is just you can get your work done.
Get it done, and then you're done. Nice. TJ, how about you?
Basically just kind of sleeping more. That's the biggest thing for me.
Okay.
We don't have to
Yeah.
wake up so early anymore.
Right, and you don't have to like get ready for school. You just can roll
Yeah.
out of bed and be in your first. Yep, totally. Yilang, how about you?
Give me more work time.
Yep. Yeah, there is more time to get your work done. I agree. And then Brenda, I saw you hopped on here kind of at the end. We're just talking about like what potentially are some benefits to distance learning, even though many people would rather not be in distance learning. Like there's probably some good things. Can you pop your camera on and share with us something you're looking forward to in the distance model?
Probably sleeping more.
Perfect. You and many other people in this class. So, all right. Well, so in the interest then of not wasting too much of your time, but of moving forward as a class, I'm going to be doing a little presentation on what we'll be doing this week. Got you guys, you're going to be thinking about a human behavior that is going to be the focus of our asynchronous work this week. And one that's potentially very much in the news right now. So while I am getting my presentation loaded and I'm going to record this, if you would please go into the chat and sign your first and last name, and that's how I'll do attendance for today. In the future, I think there's going to be an easier way to do that, but for now, that's if you would just go into the chat and put your first and last name. That's how I'll do attendance.
Desperado.
Okay, so can everybody see my, or can I get at least one of you just to turn on your camera and just let me know that you can see my screen here? It's got the orange background.
Yeah, I can see it.
Perfect, thank you. So here's our goals for the week and specifically for today. The first thing I want to do is talk about your current course grade and give you a highlight of what we're going to talk about tomorrow. And then we're going to do a little work on a human behavior, which is going to be the focus of this week's asynchronous assignment. So the first thing I'd like everybody to do is to open up your course in Schoology and look at your current grade in the class. Last week there was an assignment that was due, and you can see on my screen here, I'm going to go into week 8. But if you would all go check your grades real quick, because I updated the grades with everything through week 8 that I have. So go and check your grades, please. Now you'll see in the grade book that I've kind of reorganized how things are scored, and it's changed your course grade a little bit. It's better now it better reflects where your actual grade would be in the course if I had to assign your grade right now. Please do not worry if your grade doesn't look like what you want it to be. That is we are not finished, particularly with our summative assessments of where your learning is. We've done 2 ethograms, and we will still have one more to do. but those ethograms are now recorded, so the one about the minnows and the chickens, as formative grades, and you'll see a summative grade that is describing where you are right now in terms of your ability to write an ethogram using those two pieces of evidence. So tomorrow, you are going to either get a message that you need to meet with me to talk about ethograms or not. And during part of tomorrow's class, the second part of tomorrow's class, I'm going to be meeting with either individuals or small groups to talk about ethogram writing. Now, if you don't get a message from me, we don't need to meet. Because I think you're on track and progressing fine, and after our initial get-together tomorrow, you'll be able to go and work on any asynchronous work that you want to work on. That being said, if you have not turned in your chicken ethogram yet, or you've only turned in one ethogram and you turned it in late, go and look at the feedback on that and try to get your second one in so I can get those graded tonight. I'm going to do that tonight. I'm not going to grade them tomorrow morning before class. And that'll give me as much information as possible to talk to you about how to write ethograms. Okay? Are there any grade questions right now?
Do you accept late work?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
The main things assessed in this class are skills. So, like ethogram writing, for instance, or asking and predicting answers to questions about development or behavior causes. Those are skills. And so if you decide to learn those skills now, then then that's great, right? Now, at some point, what ends up happening if students get too far behind is that we get too close to the end of the trimester and there's not enough time for them to learn all the skills and show me that they've learned them. And that's really where students get into trouble, is if they're like, well, he'll accept late work so I can do it all at the end. And while technically that is true, the reality is that most people just aren't able to do them well enough to pass them when they try to do them all at the end, if that makes sense. Because the skills are meant to be practiced several times. And so really it's like, you can't just write one ethogram. You need to write 3 of them, and you need to show me that you get better, which is hard to do in a week, unless that's all you're focusing on. But late work can absolutely go and be turned in. And if you want to meet with me this afternoon between 12 and 2:20, I'd be happy to go through individual assignments with you or anybody who wants to do that and help work through them. That's what I'm here to do. Okay, I am going to drop a link into the chat here. I think. Hold on, I got to get the link again. Copy the link. And you are going to, when you open the link, get to a page that looks like what you're seeing right here. Let's see. There we go. All right. So you should see the link. And everybody is going to open up this document right here. If you try to open it and it kicks you out, just click on it again. And if you're having other problems, let me know. But we should get everybody on this document right now. All right. Looks like almost everyone is there. And so what I'm going to talk about now is our asynchronous assignment for week 9. So you can leave that Jamboard open because you're going to be using that in a minute. But click back in so you can see our Google Meet. And I'm going to show you the, oops, I'm in our wrong. I'm going to show you the assignment for this week. And the assignment for week 9, the asynchronous assignment, is going to be to take your first assessment. What happened to it? Oh, I'm in the wrong week. Sorry, just waiting for Schoology to come up here. Okay. Is to take your first assessment on behavior causes. So you'll notice in the assignment, and you can open this now if you'd like, but you don't have to. You can just listen for now. It says use your notes on behavior causes to help answer the questions thoroughly. Now, you might be like, what are my notes on behavior causes? And those notes on behavior causes are notes that you took in an assignment back in week 5. No, hold on. Back in week, I got to find the week where you did that. 7 maybe? Nope. Third time's a charm here, guys. Back in week 6, let's try that one. There we go. Asynchronous assignment notes on behavior causes. Now, you don't need to open it in Schoology if you've already done it, because it's in your Google Docs, and you don't need to make a new copy because you've already completed it. But you'll use these notes in order to take this week's assessment. It's going to show you how to ask the questions and then write about the questions, just like we did for behavior development. And the question of this week is going to relate to a human behavior that I'm sure you're all familiar with, but we're going to evaluate it in terms of the causes of the behavior. And when you start thinking about causes, what animal behaviorists think about are internal and external causes, these triggers that set off behavior. And the behavior that you're going to be learning more about in this case is a behavior. Oh, I see the actual link isn't even in there. Okay. You can't open the full assessment right now. I will go and put that in there as soon as we're done with class today. Okay. But the introduction part remains the same. So on the screen, you're going to see a slide with 2 words on it. Okay. And these are scenes that have been pretty common in the past year or two. They're always common. There are always protests and riots going on all over in our world, but particularly in the United States over the past couple years, there have been a lot of things that have been described as protests or riots, whether we're talking about, Black Lives Matter protests and what happened after George Floyd's death this past spring, or we're talking about environmental protest movements, the indigenous people up in northern Minnesota trying to save their up in North Dakota trying to save their land from oil companies, or protests following the recent election results, right, where there are people out protesting the vote count and things like that. So there are a lot of people who are out engaging in things, behaviors. These are behaviors. They're group behaviors, but they're described as either protests or riots. And before we get into how the word protests or riots are used to describe a particular behavior, I just would like you to consider how those 2 terms are different and how we see something that is a protest versus a riot, and what their similarities are and what their differences are. So on our Jamboard here, there is a little, right in the middle, it says sticky note. And if you click that, it gives you the option to write something, either a similarity or something that is unique to just a protest or a riot. So if I wanted to say, well, I'm just going to say hi for right now, because I would like you all to generate the ideas. So if I just typed hi and I hit save, my Post-it note would appear up here, and then I can grab it and I can move it, right? So what I'd like you to do is to think about the concept of a protest and a riot. And I specifically picked the pictures here because they show both things. There are pictures here that represent protests and pictures here that represent riots. And they're not the same thing, but they share some common characteristics. So I'd like you to think about what is it that might make a protest and a riot similar versus what might make protests and riots different from each other. And I'd like you to add sticky notes onto this document that summarize some of your thoughts. So take a few minutes and do that.
So are we all doing this together?
Everybody's doing it together. Yep. So you guys should all access the Jamboard, and I just want you to throw ideas on there. It is okay if we start overlapping ideas or the same thing gets put on there more than one time. I'm just looking for you to express your thoughts about what makes something a protest, what makes something a riot, what they share in common with each other. I liked that one. We'll just put that one up. Social discontent. That's great. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? About 30 seconds if you got any ideas or you want to elaborate on anything you see up here. Okay, so let's kind of collectively, let's look and see what we've got on our Jamboard here. So you can zoom in and look at these with me, but if we start off looking at what you all identified as similarities, and this is partly why I wanted you to do this, because I don't need to teach you anything really about protests and riots as a behavior, as a description of a behavior. You guys already clearly understand them. But let's summarize what your knowledge is. So if you were describing what makes them similar, we have things like people are trying to make a change or send a message. It's groups of people taking an action, large groups of people usually gathering together. There's usually some kind of social discontent. Yep, I agree with that. And there's usually some kind of event that gets it started, which I also agree. Something is going on. I would also say, which I think y'all are getting at here, which is that riots and protests are all about like a group of people feeling like they don't have, like they need to get together as a group in order to have enough power to change something, right? Protests and riots are about power and the power that comes from a group, okay? But they are different from each other, and you, for the most part, highlighted the key differences, right? Protests are more likely to be peaceful. A protest is people speaking out about how they feel, which I would say is also true of, can be true of a riot, but also may not be true of a riot. So a protest is to make a statement or fight for something you believe in, but in a peaceful way. I agree. Protests are normally more peaceful. They're letting their voices be heard. People who march to make change in a peaceful way. A protest can be peaceful, but some are not. And I agree with that too. There are plenty of times where protests start off as a protest, a peaceful gathering of people speaking out about something they want to change, and then the protest can turn into a riot, or parts of some of the people that are engaged in a protest might change and start doing a different behavior that is similar but not the same, and that we would call a riot. And so riots are more hostile. Riots usually are about breaking things. A riot is destroying things because of something that happened. It's like a protest but violent, and I agree with that. Riots cause damages to structures and buildings and people too. Usually we see the riots that mostly are causing destruction to structures, but collectively around the world, riots often end in violence, either against the people that are rioting themselves at the hands of some other force, maybe the police or the military, or sometimes the people engaged in the riot injure other people in the community who are not involved in the riot. The word riot is loaded, and I want to make sure everybody understands this before we move forward. Sometimes behaviors that should fit into the category of protests, where people may be upset but are performing peaceful, expressions of that anger, right? i.e. what you see down here and what you see in the center and what you see up here in the upper right-hand corner. These people are angry. They may even be acting aggressive, but the actions that they're taking are not violent. They're not harming other objects, right? Whether that's buildings or people. Sometimes these events get labeled as riots not because of the behaviors that are happening, but because of the people involved in them, right? So based upon the color of their skin or the cause that they're protesting, it may get defined as a riot. And so that is something I do want to separate from our conversation here. If a protest is misidentified as a riot, it does not make it a riot, okay? Riots are only defined by the violence that comes out of them. Not fear. People can be scared of protests, but that doesn't make it a riot. Riots involve damage to property or other people. Okay, and protests can switch into riots, and sometimes that makes it a gray area. All right. So the topic of your asynchronous assignment this week is going to be to listen to a social scientist. His name is Malcolm Gladwell, and he is going to give a description of what psychologists think riot behavior comes from. So we're not going to focus on protests, okay? We're going to focus on riots, and this is why. One of the things about riots that is so confusing, one of the things about riots that is so confusing is that oftentimes people who consider themselves peaceful, right? They may be upset that something's wrong with the system, but who generally consider themselves peaceful people, who are not looking to damage property or hurt other people will all of a sudden find themselves engaged in violent activity. They'll find themselves breaking windows or lighting things on fire or stealing or throwing rocks at other people. They find themselves doing violent things. And when you interview people after riots, so when psychologists do this because they want to understand the psychology of the behavior, like where does it come from? They essentially find that there are a few people who were really angry and wanted to do something violent, but there's a whole big group of other people who got caught up in the moment, right? Who claim they didn't go out intending to be violent, and then all of a sudden something happened in their brain and they found themselves doing something violent. And in extreme cases, you have people who are like, I do not believe in violence. I do not think that it is a good way to make social change. And yet I found myself throwing rocks at another human being. And people will, after riots, the people that don't really like want to be involved in them have really tough, they can have really like be emotionally scarred because they don't understand how the person they thought they were could be so different from the person they actually were in the moment. So they will do things that they would say they believe are wrong. Okay. And this is up to and including killing other human beings. So people have gotten caught up in riots and killed other people, often in like kind of like harsh ways. Riot violence that ends in death is usually very intimate, like hands-on killing of other people. And those people, in addition to being prosecuted for committing a crime, really struggle with emotional trauma of how they got into that situation. So that leads to a question like, if people feel like they're doing things that they don't actually believe they should do, how does that happen? Like, why would, if you don't think you should be hitting someone or breaking windows or lighting cars on fire, then why are you lighting a car on fire? And they often can't tell you why. They don't understand why themselves. And before you sit there back and be like, well, there must just be something wrong with them, all the evidence that psychologists have points to the fact that if you were involved in a riot where you believed in the cause of that the people were rioting about, there's every chance and likelihood that you would do something violent, even if you don't consider yourself to be violent. So the focus of this is going to be, of this week's assignment, is going to be this man named Malcolm Gladwell talking about what psychologists believe makes that happen, causes one person to join a riot and do something violent, even when they might not want to. And he's going to evaluate two different people in a riot. And the causes are going to be different. So the first couple people in a riot are very different. The causes, the things that set off their behavior, are very different from the last few people to join the riot, right? So if there's 100 people in a riot, the first two people have very different causes than the last two people to join the riot. And he's going to break down what psychologists think those causes are. So that is your asynchronous assignment for this week. I am going to use that as a summative assessment of your ability to ask questions and predict answers to behavior causes. And if you don't feel like you know how to do that, you have notes on how to do that in your Google Drive. So with that, we're done with class. So if anybody has any questions, you can stick around. Otherwise, I will see you all at 2:20.
Okay, bye. Have a good day or whatever.
All right. Thanks, Logan.
I know I still have a question.
That's fine. What can I do for you, Riley?
So did you get my message? Because I know last assignment you wanted me to submit it as a PDF, right?
Yes.
And I did now submit. I just want to make sure you got the message.
I will go back and look at that today. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Yep. Patch, can I help you?
So for when you grade summatives, you're gonna grade the final histogram, or you're gonna grade all the summatives to an average, and then that's the final summative.
Right. So the